We're building a team and we're taking it to the Nationals.
We want him.
You were on fire out there. Can't wait to destroy you at the Mavericks track.
We'll whip your butt. Oh, yeah, let's do it. Sit down!
Dad, you have to get me out of here. Mum's kidnapped me to some redneck hellhole.
Yeah, Wallace wants to join Mavericks.
Stop her! She's got my laptop! Angelique!
She's going to be helping out around the place while we fix our bike.
They watch your videos, you know. Can't do half the stuff you can do. Supposed to be a team and you're the captain, but you've been cutting him out all day. He's got no idea.
She should be on the team. We know she can ride. And she's strong. I mean, look what she's done today.
Got to show these investors you're Bear Wallace, online superstar.
Maybe I'm not.
Then what am I even doing here?
Wilson threatened to take you out. I did it to protect you.
Well, I don't need you to protect me.
Well, I did it anyway.
Kate at the track again.
Yeah, sorry, I've just come straight from the track and running a little bit late. Love a bit of motocross. Hi everybody, welcome. Great to see you. I'm Kate from ACMI, your museum for screen culture.
And I'm Susan from ACMI.
Welcome, we're so happy you could join us today. First, before we get started, ACMI and the Australian Children's Television Foundation would like to acknowledge the traditional owners, the Wurundjeri and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation on whose land we're broadcasting to you from today. And we'd love to know where you are, so please share the country that you're on in the chat with us. And we'd also like to pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples from all nations.
And we're talking about script writing today, which is a form of storytelling. So I'd like to acknowledge that the First Peoples of Australia are the first and ongoing storytellers of the land.
And we're super excited today. We're co-presenting this virtual workshop with the Australian Children's Television Foundation.
So thank you for joining our script writing virtual workshop today. We'll be asking you some questions, so teachers, please type student responses and questions in the chat. We hope everyone has their worksheet printed out to annotate too, but don't worry, if you don't have it, you can just use a notebook to take notes.
We also have a few people helping us today that you can't see. We have Simon up in the bio box, Bridget behind the scenes, and also April who's in the chat. So if you do have any problems with connection or things like that, you can just chat to April.
And we're very lucky today because we get to hear from the three creators of the television show Mavericks. Could you let us know in the chat if you have seen the TV show Mavericks? But don't worry if you haven't.
Mavericks creators Rachel Clements, Sam Meikle, Isaac Elliot have pre-recorded some answers to us. They're super busy, so they couldn't be here with us live, but they've given us some great insight into making Mavericks. So first up, we asked Rachel, Sam and Isaac to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about what they do.
My name is Rachel Clements. I am a co-creator, a co-executive producer and one of the producers of Mavericks.
This is it, folks. First race of the National Junior season.
My name is Sam Meikle and I co-created Mavericks with Rachel and Isaac. I also served as the head writer and an executive producer.
I'm Isaac Elliot, creator and director of 2 episodes. I grew up in Alice Springs racing motocross, so I brought kind of a lifetime of motocross racing and watching and studying kind of knowledge, as well as some kind of contacts in the industry, as well as being a filmmaker as well.
Whoa, and he's got his work cut out for him here.
Wow, well it's obviously clear that making a television series like this is a very collaborative process. So Rachel and Sam and Isaac began writing their script, but before they did that, they had to develop a really strong idea for the television series. So we asked them we asked Rachel to tell us where the original idea for Mavericks came from.
Mavericks was originally my idea. I am a co-owner of Brindle Films based in Alice Springs, and over a number of years we'd found ourselves creating documentaries set in the world of motorbikes. And so it had been something that had been in my head for a while because I could see the family nature of the sport. And then my son, who was the under-10 BMX champion of Central Australia, he decided that he wanted to switch from BMX to motocross and join the local club and join in the racing. And so it made me think about all the lessons that kids need to learn, or young people need to learn, not just in motocross, but in any extreme sport. There's the need to respect yourself, respect your teammates, respect your gear, respect your coach, be safe. And so we created a show bringing in Sam, Meikle and Isaac Elliot, and then the three of us created it together, and all three of us are down as creators of the show.
How interesting. I'm wondering where some of the students that are watching today could get some ideas for their stories. Do you have any ideas or prompts, Kate?
Yeah, I've got a couple of ideas. You could adapt a passage from your favourite book. You could have a think about a silly visual prompt, like maybe a cat with a paintbrush in its hand, and the script idea might be developing, why is the cat painting a painting and what is it painting it of? You could retell a scenario from your actual life, so try and recreate that. Or you could even give yourself a prompt from a show like Mavericks. For example, a scene where Scott discovered someone's tampered with his bike and he confronts one of his team members.
Such inspiring prompts. Now, something you need to keep in mind when coming up with stories is your audience. So we asked Rachel why it's so important to know your audience.
When you're thinking of the sort of show that you want to make, it's important to think to the audience. Who is the audience? Who are you writing it for? Who are you making it for? It's not correct to say, I'm making it for me and my friends. You need to be able to articulate a greater audience. Everyone's wanting the big blockbuster. Everyone's wanting the big hit. And so how are you going to get them there? You know, our audience for Mavericks is pretty much every kid between an 8 to 12-year-old demographic. We're hoping that they'll find something there that they like. They may like the character of Bear because he's a bit crazy. They may like the character of Caden because he's a bit of a spoilt brat. You know, the girls will hopefully find something to relate to with Jenny and Angie. So, you know, we made Mavericks for a large audience. We wanted country kids to be able to see something in there that's for them. We wanted to be able to show Indigenous kids that there's our lead characters who are Aboriginal people. And we wanted to make it for kids who do ride the dirt bikes. You know, they've not had a lot made for them over the years, but also pretty much any kid within the demographic, we're hoping that they will find something that appeals to them. So when you're writing, it's important to think for the audience. Why will someone watch it? Why will a kid sitting in Sydney watch it? Why will a kid sitting in Alice Springs watch it? It's a question you're going to get asked time and time again from people who are paying for the show to the marketing people. You need to know your audience and you need to be able to answer that question.
What great advice. Think about your favourite television show. How would you describe its target audience? Share your responses in the chat. And Kate, what's your favourite show?
Well, I've been watching a show recently called Built to Survive. It's all about, it's a documentary series and it explores how animals in very challenging environments all across Australia adapt and survive in the wild. So I would, I've been learning a lot from it myself, but I would say their audience are probably 7 to 12-year-olds. But it's also a show that does appeal to a wider audience, so adults like myself.
Now, I know that the creators of Mavericks made this story Bible before writing their scripts. And this included things like information on the world and the sport, the style and tone of the series, as well as an overview of all the episodes. It also includes full pages on each of our main characters. The characters are such an important part of Mavericks. I wonder how they created the characters for Mavericks. Let's ask Sam.
The characters in Mavericks began with Rachel. Her son started to move from BMX racing to motocross, but also she had a number of friends who'd raced in the Fink Desert Race in Alice Springs. She actually made a documentary with Isaac about that race. So Rachel kind of downloaded all of her thoughts about the characters, and I took all of that, added some ideas of my own and shaped them. We then worked with Isaac to hone them even further and to lean into the characters' authenticity. What we were then working to find was a balance, an ensemble of interesting characters who were going through stuff that our audience is going through, reacting to each other in dramatic and funny ways, and ultimately forming a family. We wanted each character to have their own hopes and dreams and also their own baggage, their own faults and fears, because seeing them overcome those things is how you find the character arcs. And a character arc is basically the journey the character goes on through the show, what they learn about themselves and how they're better by the end than when they started. Scott's arc is about leadership. Can he become a good leader? Jenny's arc is about adapting. Can she adapt to the challenge of diabetes and still be the fiercely competitive rider that she wants to be? Bear's arc is about risk. Can he learn the difference between good risk and bad risk? Richie's arc is about finding his voice. Can he find the courage to tell his parents what he really wants? Caden's arc is about entitlement. Can he learn to share and to be part of the team? And Angie's arc is about trust. Can she learn to rely on her new family when her birth family has let her down so badly? Within that mix, we also wanted to touch on some issues that we felt were important, like feminism. Jenny is just as good a rider as the boys. And disadvantage. Angelique comes from a poor background, one that might have also included some instability and violence. And finally, broken and blended families, because there are heaps of kids who come from all kinds of different family structures. And I guess the last character it's important to mention is Alice Springs itself. It's a beautiful but dangerous place, and it's really isolated. And that acts like a magnifying glass for all of the characters, loading each of their journeys with even more stakes.
It's really great they have a range of characters for the audience to identify with.
Absolutely, really realistic and authentic. So let's keep going and explore writers' room workshops. So I know Isaac had some really great insights into writers' room workshops and why they're so important to the story and script writing. So let's have a watch.
A television show runs for this, it was 5 hours, 10 half-hour episodes. So that's a lot of story to bring to a show. And one of the directors, Ian, would say that TV is about families and films are about individuals. And so obviously we needed to put together a really interesting and diverse family to be able to sustain a story across a season of television. In the story room, we obviously had the perspective of all the writers, the note takers, as well as Sam, Rachel, and myself, who each brought kind of a unique perspective to the show. But also in that, I was able to contact 2 motocross racers, an ex-Australian motocross champion and a multi-time world motocross champion from New Zealand, who were able to come in and speak about racing as a lifestyle, racing as while they were growing up. Trish, one of the Aboriginal creators on the show, was also in the writer's room, and she brought obviously the Indigenous perspective, which was really important in creating not only Richie, but also Richie's entire family, and then the story arc of Richie as he's balancing family and school and wanting to race, and the expectations of all of those different aspects of his life. So it was really important to bring together a huge number of perspectives to create these really detailed characters that are really kind of singular.
Writers' room workshops sound really fun. It's so great working with a team to create a story.
Absolutely. Let's find out a little bit more about the script writing process.
The script writing process is connected to the development of a show, but it is a separate process. It's about taking all of the thinking and all of the brainstorming that's gone before and focusing it into specific stories, into action. Character and story are action. A television show is about what the characters want and what they do to achieve their wants and all of the consequences along the way that flow from that. Always in action, but also in relationships. When you write a script, you're making all of those choices, what the characters do, what the characters say, how they react, and ultimately how they feel. When a story is constructed properly, the audience understands why the characters do and feel the things they do. And they're along for the ride, hoping for the characters, fearing for the characters, and if we get it right, feeling the triumph of our characters winning and the devastation when the characters lose. A good script also paints the picture of the world the characters are living in, the sights, the sounds. And the thing about scripts is you've got to do that with as few words as you can. Good scripts are vivid and they're punchy. They get the investors you need to fund your show excited. So in a way, a script is a really detailed pitch for what you want your show to be. But most importantly, you need all of that detail because a script is the bedrock for the show that actually gets made. It tells the directors and DOPs what to shoot, the actors what to say and how to relate to each other in character, the designers how to make the show look, the sound designers and recordists and the composers how to make the show sound. It takes all of those talented people and their teams to make a great show, but it's all working towards landing what the show is trying to say to the audience, how we're trying to make the audience feel, and that comes from the script. We write scripts in present tense because a TV show has to have the feel that it's happening right now in front of you. I think that's the most effective way to make the audience feel like they're part of it. And it works on that level for the cast and crew too.
So let's jump into the formatting and language used in a script. Now, you'll all have a worksheet that you can refer to and use to label the script as we go through it. But don't worry, if you don't have the worksheet, just use your notebook. Now, over to Kate.
So it's a general rule with script writing that one page of script is about 45 seconds to a minute's worth of screen time. So here I have an example of the Mavericks script. This is episode 1 and it's about 25 pages. So about 25 pages of script is a 25-minute long episode. So we're going to be focusing a little bit on this. You should have your worksheets there in front of you. We're going to be focusing on this small part of the script for this activity. This is a scene from scene 8 in episode 1 of Mavericks.
Okay, so Kate is going to be our visual guide as I give you all the info about formatting your script. The tense is really important in formatting your script. When writing a script, we use the present tense. This makes the story immediate and active. It's happening as we read it. Having a look at your worksheet, can you underline 3 examples of present tense? We have 2 there, and you need to find a 3rd one.
So you're looking through the script for a 3rd example of present tense.
The scene heading or slug line is where you set the scene. Can you write scene heading on the side of your page and draw an arrow to the section we've marked here? This is where we let the cast and crew know if the scene is taking place indoors or outdoors. EXT for exterior or INT for interior. Where it's happening, Adelaide track, stall. Time of day, is it day or is it night? And this is always in bold and underlined and shared in this order. In this example, it lists the characters in the scene. This isn't essential, but it's helpful for the crew. NS supporters, that means that there are non-speaking supporting roles. In the action, or big print, we describe where the characters are, what is happening, and what we want the audience to see, including any significant objects. Can you please write action or big print on the side of your page and then draw an arrow to the sections of action? Now we've already highlighted 2. Can you find the 3rd one? We can also use the big print to set up the characters and their descriptions. In this scene, the first section of action is short, as we've already met Scott and Jenny. Now look at the language that is used here. It doesn't just say that Jenny eats a pie and Scott sits down next to her. There's not a lot of language here, but it's super descriptive. Jenny hoes into a pie, chips and drink as Scott sidles up. The character's name is capitalised to show who is speaking. The dialogue is the words the character says. The dialogue is written in lowercase under the character's name. You'll notice too that the character's name and their dialogue is centred on the page. Write character and dialogue on the side of your page and draw an arrow to a character name and dialogue example. There are a lot of different shorthand or abbreviations in script writing. You might like to write some of these on the side of your worksheet. Just in this small section of the Mavericks script, we can see a few. Parentheses or brackets are used when a character needs to make a small action during their dialogue, or if the writer wants to indicate how the line is being spoken. For example, Jenny swigging her drink. CONTD is an abbreviation of continued, and it's used to suggest that a character is still speaking regardless of the action going on around them. Dashes are used in and out of dialogue to suggest that someone or something is being interrupted before they're finished speaking. Here are a few we don't have in this scene. There's voiceover, which is VO. Off-screen, which is OS. And with off-screen, the character is still in the scene, just not on camera at that exact moment. So if one character was talking to another who is in another room, you could use OS for the character that's in the other room. Or maybe with a phone conversation, the character on the other end of the line could be heard but not seen. A story beat is a structural element of a narrative that's meant to mark a story pause or a shift in tone. Story beats are written into screenplays as beat or a beat. Script writers will also include visual transitions in their script, such as cut to, dissolve, fade in or fade out, or outline a scene as a montage or suggest a type of shot. For example, close-up or POV, which means point of view. Okay, great work everyone. So now you know all the formatting and language structures you need to know to begin writing a script. And what do we do after we've finished our script, Kate?
After we've written our script, we take it to a revision process. And then we take it to a table so the actors can all read through the script. This is called a table read. So let's learn a little bit more about a table read and why it's so important.
A table read is where the cast sit around a big table and read the script aloud for the writers, the directors, and the producers. And the reason this is so valuable is because hearing the script aloud, you immediately know what's working and what's not. Sometimes you might recognise that a scene will work with less dialogue. Sometimes a joke falls flat. Sometimes you might realise there's a beat missing in the story and you need to add a scene or a moment. The other reason a table read can be helpful is that you can spend some time tailoring the script to the actors you've cast. Up to that moment, the characters have only existed on the page, but once you have your actors, their flesh and blood right in front of you, that gives you the chance to work to their strengths.
A table read is when all the creatives come together and we hear the scripts out loud. A reader will read all of the big print, while the actors for each part will read their dialogue lines. It's kind of important to hear the script all together, as it helps get the team on the same page, and we start to feel the story. Because as I said, the script is a planning document. And so if you just read it, as a blueprint, you don't kind of get the same emotion as you get when you start to hear it. But also by doing it in a room, you see the characters and you start to, it's more easier to picture the interactions between the characters and hear the interactions between the characters when you hear it and see it in a room. Hearing a story out loud makes it real, and it can reveal things in a story that can be missed in a read. Or maybe the words coming out of an actor portraying a character might just sound wrong or weird. Until an actor is cast, the characters are really just an idea or a blueprint. An actor makes a character real, and a table read allows the filmmaking team to hear all of these now real characters interact. It's really when the movie magic starts to take shape.
So it sounds like it's such an interesting process that we thought we might give you a go at doing a table read. So in your groups of 3, we want you to choose someone who will read all the action. So that's all the lines that tell the actors what to do. We want somebody to be Scott and read all the dialogue that Scott has. And somebody should also be Jenny and read Jenny's dialogue. We're going to give you 3 minutes to do your table read, so not much time. So you can hop straight into it, choose your roles, and if you finish early, don't worry, you can just read through it again and see if you can give it more expression.
So good luck.
Hi. How did you go with your table read? We had a lot of fun. So we are going to have a look at the clip that you just did a table read for, and we're going to see what changes. See if you can notice the changes that happened from the scripted scene that you just read through and what happened in the final edit, and see if you can pick out some changes.
Hey, you crushed that race.
Which one? I don't know.
Was a man to understand that?
Tell me something I don't know.
Okay. Me and my dad, we're starting an academy for elite riders.
Who are you guys?
Oh, I'm Scott.
You're a sucker. I know who you are.
So you can see there are a few small changes, but sometimes when we're actually shooting a scene in production, there's much bigger changes that need to happen when you're on the production set.
So let's hear about some of the changes that needed to happen while Mavericks was in production.
The writing process doesn't stop once you start shooting. Scripts do change throughout production and even into post-production. For example, we might lose a location or an actor might get sick. During the shoot for Mavericks, we had a situation where one of our motorcycles broke. It was a vintage bike that had story attached to it, but we only had 15 minutes to make necessary changes before the scene was shot. Changes like this are called amendments. Usually small adjustments you make along the way. But sometimes larger changes are required as production is rolling. You might realise that the episode is running long and need to cut scenes. Alternately, you might realise the episode is running short and need to add scenes. Originally, the climax to episode 9 was set in the bush outside Alice Springs. Bear was supposed to jump his bike across a gully. But once we began location scouting and we broke down the logistics, we knew we needed to scale things back. At the same time, we knew we needed an obstacle for Bear that would allow him to overcome his fear of big jumps that came from his crash in episode 7. That's how we came to the idea of a different kind of jump, one that was much more controllable and accessible at the Alice Springs Raceway. During the post-production phase for Mavericks, I rewrote all of the race commentary, firstly to reflect the races and how they were edited together, but also to add atmosphere and to highlight certain character moments and story points. Taking all of this into account, that's why it's important to make the most of your development process. The more intimately you know your show, the more chance you have to reach good creative solutions when challenges and opportunities arrive.
So a lot of change happens even within production with the writers. So they can't go off for holidays just yet. It's nearly time to finish up the workshop, but we would love any questions from you that you may have at this stage, so pop them into the chat. We've also created a really fun workshop resource for you to use in the classroom, and we'll be sharing that next week. It includes additional interviews with Rachel, Sam and Isaac, and I'm sure you're going to have a lot of fun diving into that.
And we had one more question that we asked Rachel, Sam and Isaac, and that was what advice they have for young scriptwriters. That means you. So let's have a look at what they said.
What would I say to a younger version of myself? Hang in there. People will generally succeed in doing something that they love. Don't give up, have confidence. Find the stories that you want to tell. Find the stories that mean something to you. And work really, really hard to get those written as best that you can.
Firstly, watch everything and read what you can, and try and watch outside of what you normally would. Also look at the influences that influenced what you love. If you love Stranger Things, look to the films from the 70s, 80s, 90s that inspired Stranger Things. Look to the films that inspired them. So you'll go back to Spielberg films, and then you'll go back to the films that inspired Spielberg. And I think just absorbing it all, I don't think, from a certain age you need to be taking notes, but you just need to absorb and find what you love and find what speaks to you and find what makes you feel things. You just want to feel things. And tell stories to people. Saying stories out loud and getting a reaction is a fun and a great way to understanding how an audience will respond to a story. Write stories in a notebook. I guess this telling of stories and getting a reaction to it is kind of going to be one of your best ways to understand how a story can affect an audience, because ultimately, you know, scripts are written to make a film and a film is made to get a response from an audience.
The best advice I have for students wanting to get into script writing is to write. There's no substitute for words on the page. The more you write, the more you dig into yourself and practice honing what it is that you want to say, practice different ways of saying it, the more skills that you'll develop. I think script writing is hard because it has to be so concise. You have to be able to say so much with very little, and it has to be accessible to a huge number of people from all walks of life. Everyone from network executives to camera assistants have to understand what you're making and why you're making it. But in the end, what really stands out is someone who has something to say and who's really passionate about saying it.
Wow, so we've got some great questions coming through from you. Someone said, where can I watch Mavericks? You can download it through the ACTF website. I believe it's also available on iView and Netflix. So what else have we got? Why is it called Mavericks? Good question.
Yes, well, it's called Mavericks because these young people are risk takers, and that's one of the reasons that the series is so exciting.
Absolutely. And who is your favourite character?
Oh, I actually really like the character of Jenny because I think she's such a strong female character.
I love Jenny too. There's such a great variety, isn't there, within the characters of Mavericks. Once you have your idea, how do you begin writing the script? Oh, that's a really good question. So there is a little stage of pre-planning between having your initial story idea and starting to write the actual script that we touched on before, and that's the developing the Bible. And one of the processes of the Bible is developing your character profiles. So character profiles are thinking about all the questions that help as a writer you to understand their motivation. So, for example, I guess with Scott, he's really eager to prove himself. We also know that he is working with his dad. We start to sort of paint a picture when we create a character profile of where they live, what sorts of things they like. So then when we're writing their dialogue, we can draw from that character profile to inform the types of things that they might do in their story arcs.
And as you're watching TV and films now, have a bit of a think about all that you've learnt today and actually think about the character profile that will have actually led to the writing of the characters that you're watching on TV or if you go to the cinema.
Somebody has asked, yep, good question. What do we do once we've finished writing the script? That's a big process.
Great question. Because the script is just one part of a much larger process that includes pre-production, production and post-production. And the great news is that at ACMI we have a great resource on our website called Film It that you can check out, and we'll actually share the link in the chat.
There's a lot of really great questions there, and I'm sure April's going to be able to answer just a couple more in the chat. We're nearly at the end of our workshop. So
thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to see what you create on your script writing journey. And teachers, we would really appreciate your feedback. You can let us know by using the links in the chat, and we'll also send this link to you via email.
We also want to acknowledge that the ACTF and ACMI were able to produce and present this virtual workshop with the support from the Strategic Partnership Program from the Victorian Department of Education and Training.
And a big thank you to Simon and Bridget on tech and April and Janine in the chat. Now have a wonderful day, and we hope to see you all at our next virtual workshop.
Yes, good luck with your script writing. I'm off to practice on the motocross track.
Bye everyone.
Bye everyone.